The U.S. Department of Justice is investigating complaints at the University of New Mexico related to UNM's handling of allegations of sexual assault and rape. It's part of an ongoing effort by the DOJ to change the way colleges respond to sexual assault. This week also brought news that the three men accused of rape earlier this year on campus, but whose charges were later dropped, are now suing the university, saying they want to see changes in the process for dealing with alleged assaults. And Laura, the attorneys for these three men say that these cases should go to the APD or the state police. Your thought on that, first of all, and take it off of campus and the campus police.
Right. Well, I think there's certainly a lot to be said for that process.
Right.
I think,
which wouldn't be unusual compared to other places.
right. No, it wouldn't be, and it is. I think it's a little bit unusual that it was kept completely within UNM. They have their own police force. I mean, they're police officers with certification like everybody else. But I do think that it had, there's a different level of routineness. Like that's not necessarily what they normally deal with on campus. Referring it to the DA's office and the APD might be more natural in terms of the day-to-day work that they do.
I would think so, Marisa DeMarco, because there's a reason there's a special unit at APD for these things. There's a special sensitivity that has to be involved. There's a way of questioning. There's a way of assessing the situation that's not for everyone just walking off the street. Does it make sense to you to spill it out to APD or other places?
There's a question around the country about whether campuses should be handling this administratively with an administrative investigation or whether city police forces should be handling these as criminal investigations. And it seems natural that it should be going to city police who might have more experience in dealing with these situations. But at the same time, you have to ask, if you're a student, maybe you don't want to go through the whole criminal process. Maybe you just want your, the person who assaulted you not to be on campus anymore or not to be in the same dorm as you. And so that's kind of where the issue gets a little tricky.
It does, doesn't it? The other tricky part of it is jurisdiction's one thing, but getting a result is a whole other thing. I have to imagine this is why DOJ is stepping in, because the results are not quite satisfactory for the victims, certainly.
Well, it's interesting. Since the DOJ made this announcement, I think it took everybody surprised. Nobody saw this coming.
I agree.
But was that both victims as well as the accused are coming out and saying that there's been some wrongdoing. And if there is any type of benefit that we'll see as a result of all of this conversation, is that the conversation is being had. Because as a father of two daughters, one of which is looking at universities right now, she's a senior in high school. They don't talk about this in their publications, in their promotional materials, and it's the type of stuff that parents really need to know about.
That's right.
So it's. I think the conversation is worth having. I think it's definitely you should turn this over to the people who are used to investigating this and let the professionals handle it.
As the father of two girls attending UNM, I'm with your brother on this. This is serious business. Janice, it's interestingly enough. You hate to, it breaks my heart to think about all the victims who have not gotten a resolution here up to this point. It had to come to this point that the DOJ stepped in. Are you in lockstep with DOJ coming in? Do you think it's too much? Do you think this could have been handled in-house, so to speak, or?
Well, actually, Gene, this just grieves me. This is an issue I have worked on since the 1970s at UNM. And to me, this is more of the same. Since the 1970s, police investigation at UNM has been lax at best, and it really isn't their charge. Is APD better prepared to do this? Absolutely. But where's the commitment of the university? But still at the same time, I think this is overreach by the DOJ. And this is sweeping across the country. They are using Title IX funds as kind of a hammer. And anytime there's a perceived threat, I really don't like this. But Marisa is exactly right. When you're handling sex assaults on campus, let us not forget that there is an issue of hormones. And okay, I can deal with that. But we have had serial rapists on our campus, and it was given short shrift.
Interestingly, when you think about, again, jurisdictions aside, things do change when another jurisdiction, if APD is on campus, that's no small thing. That changes things. That changes a dynamic about a university environment and a university culture. So I have to ask, is this something that the university could possibly get their arms around on their own with a little prompting from DOJ in your view?
Well, it does change things if APD is on the scene of it. It becomes, it's perceived as a much more serious thing. But at the same time, even the defendants then automatically have other protections under the law that they wouldn't necessarily in an administrative investigation.
Right.
And I think that's the sort of thing that we see now coming back with the three who were accused of rape before.
Right.
I mean, just to be accused and lose out for, never mind the public perception, but whatever other cost there was to them personally of being falsely accused,
Right.
that's a huge, that's a huge wrong that they've had to endure.
I'm going to stay with you on that point because something about that just really gets me. The end of the Journal article just this past couple of days talking about, in our state, they cannot get those charges expunged, so to speak.
Right.
And one of the young men has a family history of law enforcement. He wanted to go in the FBI, and that's probably out for him now
Right.
at this point. I know this has come up in the legislature for a
has.
number of years, and the current administration, governor does not want to get rid of this. But talk to that a little bit. The idea that accusations can come and you cannot get rid of these things.
Yeah, I mean, charges will stay on your record, and they're searchable. It's something that you can do a Google search and find a lot of charges, but you can certainly do, a higher level search for any new job that you apply for, and it's something that you carries, with you throughout your whole career potentially. Unfortunately, in this state, we've had the legislature multiple times actually pass a bill and get to the governor's office, not just this governor, but the last governor as well.
Fair enough,
And
yep.
they vetoed that bill. I mean, governors are not necessarily, in favor of these kinds of laws generally, because the overwhelming support out there is for tighter rules, for more public safety, for more transparency. This is, really strikes to the heart of those folks that maybe as juveniles in juveniles is a little bit different because they seal the records
Sure.
often.
Yep.
But, somebody who had an indiscretion in their 20s and then later has, definitely worked hard and still has this on their record.
That's right.
And being able to take that off of their record in some way,
Sure.
even if it was just a charge and not a conviction.
That's right. I have to talk to you about how this works in the legislature. I have to imagine someone's going to approach this again this year.
Oh, sure.
Maybe on the heels of this case as well.
Right.
But talk about why this has not happened in years past.
Well, partly because the bills are not as clear cut as just charges.
Gotcha.
The last bill that I sat in on also expunged records of convictions for service that have already been served.
Gotcha.
And I think that was a deal breaker.
Right.
But I agree that if you have been charged, that is very different than a conviction.
Right.
And we are now at a point in our society, and I am a law and order type of person, but if you are not convicted, then all bets are off. On the other side, if you have served your time, when are we going to forgive you? And we are now denying people housing and a right to work and forcing them back into the system. We need to rethink this.
Yeah, interesting point there.
The other thing that really comes up with this story is that a very, very small percentage of sexual assaults are being reported. And I think that a big question that universities all across the country need to be asking themselves is how do they create conditions where people feel comfortable reporting when they've been sexually assaulted?
Interesting. This came up, we had Sex Week recently on campus. Big hit. Our friends down at Self Serve, Mady Fricker and Hunter Riley did a great job. Part of their charge was bringing awareness, Tom, to men about this situation. And we need to change our act about all this too. Do you see that as part of the solution as well?
Absolutely. I think it comes down to just an overall education, educating respect.
Yeah.
And no means no.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
I think there's a lot of sensitivities that need to be brought in for all parties.
Hormones aside.
Yeah, hormones aside,
Hormones
absolutely.
Absolutely.
However-
Up next, we go on the clock.